Welcome to the award-winning Tough Girl podcast, now celebrating 10 years. I'm Sarah Williams, and every week I bring you stories from women in the world of adventure and physical challenge. Get inspired, stay motivated, and be part of a movement that's increasing the visibility of female role models, especially in relation to adventure and endurance. New episodes every Tuesday at 7 a.m. UK time. Support the mission at patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast and dive deeper at toughgirlchallenges.com.
My name's Jenn and I run MJ Outdoor Adventures. I'm based down in Kent. So MJ Outdoor Adventures is a hiking group with sort of specialist support for women going through menopause. My aim is to get everyone outdoors, regardless of what stage of life they are, what they look like, body size, shape, just trying to create as few barriers as possible to the outdoors.
Oh, I love that. And talking of the outdoors, what were your early years like? Were you outdoorsy? Was this always something that was encouraged by your family?
So truthfully, no. I was the kid at school who would lie to get out of PE lessons. I had a letter that meant that I could show that every week and complain that my knee was hurting. I hated sports. I went to a girls' school, so it was typical, netball, hockey, things like that. It wasn't until sort of my mid to late 20s that I started to realise that actually maybe fitness wasn't too bad a thing to be looking into. And then after I'd gone through sort of gynae issues, I'd put on a lot of weight and I just wanted to get fit. So yeah, it was really sort of late 20s that the outdoors started calling me, to be honest. Definitely wasn't something that was encouraged in any way, shape or form in my younger years.
So what happened in your late 20s, when you got this urge, you wanted to do more fitness, focus more on your health? What path did you take? Like, was there help and support available? Did you know what to go and do or where to go?
Not at all. So I went through an early menopause in my early 20s, which led to many problems. One of them for me was sort of weight gain very, very quickly. So I didn't really know what my body was doing and I was very uncomfortable sort of physically, mentally in my body. So I'll be honest, I just started with walking the dog more. I just walked around the block a few more times. I just started to get out. And for me, the weight started to shift. That gave me more energy. That allowed me to get outdoors more. Then I found, swimming, yoga, just general gym. But it wasn't until I started hiking that sort of the passion was sort of alive in me. The things like the gym didn't really excite me. It was more of a chore. But the more I could be outside, something clicked inside me. And I was like, this is where I need to be.
When you were going through like the early menopause in your 20s, was this, how many years ago was this now?
That's going to tell my age, isn't it? Let's have a look. So I'm 39. So we're almost coming up for 20 years, to be honest. Yeah.
That must have been so interesting because I honestly feel as though it's only been the past, I'd say even for me on the podcast, I'd say it's the past 2-3 years that menopause, perimenopause has been something which is just being discussed so much more. And it's definitely something you see on social media. But going back, 20 years when you were going through this, did you have support available? Did you even know what was happening?
I didn't have a clue. I really didn't have a clue. There was some medical sort of negligence that was in there as well. There's a lot of questionable things that happened and procedures I was suggested that I had happened. But, the hindsight's wonderful and sort of having the extra age on you, you'd advocate for yourself more. But at that age, you just believe what you're being told. You hope that the people telling you that have the knowledge. Also, Google wasn't as great then. Instagram wasn't around. I couldn't get other voices. Doctors were just very much like, this is going to happen. I wasn't told about side effects. I wasn't told about what that would look like mentally and physically for me. I just had to go into it and navigate it. And at one point in time, I was on the same HRTs as my mum, which, is a bit of a family joke. But looking back, there was no support, to be honest. My mum wasn't talking about the menopause, as with most people my age. It's a generation above. It was ignored. Their mums definitely didn't talk about it. So it's amazing now. It's being talked about quite openly, which is great. But no, in my early 20s, it was not talked about. I genuinely had no clue what was happening. And it definitely led to a lot of mental and physical issues for me.
With the hiking, you said you discovered like hiking and that's when things really started to change for you. What was your journey there? Because you obviously, you've gone on to become a trained lowland leader and was working in the outdoors sort of, when do you think, actually, yeah, this is what I want to do career-wise?
It's happened really organically, to be honest with you. The more I have done it, the more passion I have got for it. And I honestly believe that every event I have done, every ultra, every trail, everywhere I've visited, and almost every person has just led me to the next step. And it feels like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Just started walking around the block a bit more, getting out, basically learning to read a map, but only as much as, like OS on an app. I didn't really have I definitely didn't have any correct clothing. When I look back at photos now and I see myself attempting mountains wearing just the worst clothes, I think, how on earth did you not get into trouble up there? And now obviously it's something that I'm desperate to sort of talk about in my group. Please make sure you are well equipped. I just got very lucky not getting into trouble. It was just so organic. Once I started to shift the weight, my menopause meant I put on 2 dress sizes just in over a month. So I really didn't feel like I had any energy. The energy came back the more I started moving. Then I saw, like the London nighttime shine walks. I thought I could do a half marathon. I could do a marathon. I signed up for sort of your ultra challenges that are 50 kilometers. They kept pushing me. I started doing backpacking and trails, and every single one just made me realize, hang on, I'm doing a lot more with my body than not only did I think possible, but the doctors had written me off as well. They said I would never be able to do these things. And whilst I definitely still have some side effects, which I talk about really openly, even down to I never wear hiking trousers. I wear sort of bright coloured funky leggings, but it's because my stomach is sort of so sensitive and expands so much that having buttons and zips is just not an option for me. So I've adapted everything that I possibly can. And every time I do something, I move forward. And I sort of learned about lowland leaders, and I thought, I could do that on the side. I'd started up a menopause walking group. Then I got the lowland leader. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a leap of faith here and quit my day job. And I quit my day job. I think we're at 3 months now. And it's going well so far. So hopefully I'll just continue to be able to meet new people and to do new things.
Wait, so 3 months ago is when you quit your job?
Yes, yeah. It might be the best decision I ever made or the stupidest decision, and we will find out.
It's going to be the best decision you ever made.
I hope so.
What were you doing full time? And then what plans have you put in place to take on, to do MJ Outdoor Adventures full time?
I was working in a retail, working sort of in nutrition and hormone health. But I was really fortunate with that job. I was able to talk a lot about perimenopause and menopause, and I was meeting all of these amazing women. And the one thing that was very obvious was that not only did they not have a clue what was happening to their bodies, they were also feeling quite isolated and lonely. Around that time, neighbours had seen that I was going out for walks and had asked for a local walking group to be set up. I sort of combined the two and I thought, hang on, I could do this walking group with these women and get everyone involved. And then the first walking group I set up, I called it Menopause Walks, and no one turned up. And then I suddenly realized it's not a really sexy tagline. No one wants to attend a walk called that. So I shifted gears slightly, reframed it as Women's Wellness Walks, where we could talk so openly about what was happening to our bodies, but equally, you didn't have to talk about that. And if you weren't going through the menopause, that was also okay. It's definitely the main factor, but you don't have to fit into that category. And as soon as the women started meeting up, sharing stories, and not just hormone stories, but life stories, when you get a bunch of women together, we've all gone through things. We've gone through grief, we've gone through medical issues, we've gone through heartache, health issues. I find it really powerful. Everyone is sharing their stories and there's lots of hugs and tears. And the first walk where everyone turned up was pretty powerful, to be honest.
What are the big questions? Like, what do you think that women just don't know about perimenopause and menopause that you'd really like to get that message out there?
The biggest one for me is perimenopause. Firstly, the average age has dropped drastically. People in their late 30s are showing symptoms, so much earlier than we used to. We talk about menopause like it happens in your 50s, and it does for some women, but it can be it's really starting sort of late 30s now to show symptoms. And people are always asking, how do I know when I'm in perimenopause? You can get a blood test. It's not ideal and it's hard to get, and it's not a foolproof answer. But there's 51 symptoms of menopause. And when you start reeling them off, people are like, oh, hang on, I think I have that. And it's about 5 symptoms on average before someone sort of puts the pieces together. And unfortunately, all of those symptoms can easily be something else, and it's important to get things checked out. But if we understood what was happening to our bodies, beforehand, we could get ahead of it. For me, I talk about vitamin D all the time, but we lose our bone density. And that's the big thing with walking. If we lose, 10 to 20% of our bone density, that's going to drastically impact how we're able to, be outdoors. So for me, it's about people being aware that they can start a lot younger and not sort of writing off their colleagues, their family, their friends by saying, oh, you're too young for this. Most people I know in my late 30s, they've all got brain fog of some description. Joints are aching, hair loss, itchy ears. Everyone's got something. It's definitely coming. So for perimenopause, it's really when you know something's wrong with your body and you just cannot pinpoint it, you know when something's not right. And that's just a nice sort of time to know, okay, we're in a new cycle of life here. Things are changing. What can I do to make this a little bit easier for me? And for some people, they get a really easy ride, and other people, it's completely life changing. And well done for the people that have the easy ride. But I definitely want to be able to provide support for those who are not having quite such an easy journey.
God, it's so fascinating. Obviously, every woman is different and every experience is different. I had what I think it was quite funny actually, and I'm going to put this down to perimenopause. I'd been working all day, and to be fair, I hadn't eaten. I'd eaten like my lunch at like 1, but I was working till 7, and I hadn't had any food for like 7 hours, so I was really hungry. And honest to God, all I could think about was like chocolate. Like, I just need chocolate. I just need chocolate. And and then I was like, oh, I just want ice cream. It was quite a hot day. So drove home, literally pulled into the co-op, and I was looking at the ice cream and I was like, well, I'm not going to pay £5.50 for a tub of ice cream. That's ridiculous. But they had a Viennetta on sale for £2.50. The whole Viennetta, like ice cream, like
Yes.
cake things. So I went home and I cut it and I had like 2 massive slices, went to bed, ate it, went back downstairs, cut another 2 slices, went back to bed, ate it, went back downstairs again, cut the final 2 slices. I ate the whole Viennetta. I was just,
That's the joy of being a woman.
it was just like there was like nothing was going to stop me. Like, I would have ripped it out of someone's hand. And then I think I can definitely tell I'm in perimenopause because like, sometimes like people breathe and you're just like, I'm getting rage.
Just irritants, complete irritants, yes.
Like you sort of like just,
Chewing too loudly.
yeah, and you're just like, what are they doing? And um but on the flip side, like what I've been trying to do and what I've been doing for a number of years actually is like things like, strength training. So I think I heard after the age of 35, you start losing muscle mass and it gets replaced by fat. And I was just like, oh my God, that's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. I want to strength train. I really want to have like strong bones. But in terms of like what women can do to manage like perimenopause and the symptoms, 51 symptoms, there's a lot of symptoms out there. What are the couple of the key things which really make a big difference, or you're going to get the most minimum effort for maximum return?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, most of us are from a generation where skinny was deemed the best thing. So when we learn that we start sort of putting on weight, I mean, most people when they hit menopause, got that sort of pouch around our stomach. So we just cannot shift no matter what we eat, no matter what we do. And we have this idea in our head that we have to be skinny when really we want to be strong, not skinny. So keeping sort of mobile, and obviously I would always tie in hiking and walking with this, but truthfully, any form of stretch, any form of yoga, 10 minutes a day, it can make the world of difference. We've got really high rates of arthritis in this country, osteoporosis. We really need to make sure that we're looking after our joints. So yeah, keeping mobile in any way that is possible. Things like swimming and yoga are so low impact and they're quite mindful as well, which is helpful. People talk about food and diet and that opens up a whole issue. But, just focusing on at least clean eating at the very least, except when we need our ice cream, because that is a craving that will not go away once you have that craving for something sweet, it is not going anywhere. But yeah, so for maximum gain, any form of movement is absolutely brilliant. I'm a big advocate also for mental health. Mental health suffers drastically for a lot of people during perimenopause and menopause. And, being outside, as most people listening will know, it just does wonders for your mental health, doesn't it? not only does it open up conversations if you're with other people, especially if you're doing anything solo, you come back home and you just feel so enriched and so sort of cleansed. That can make a world of difference as well, particularly if you're living in a household with people that don't quite understand what's happening to your mind and your body.
So talking about sort of mental health, if you just, I suppose, what you've been through, like in your 20s, going through early menopause, and then when you got through that, like, how long did it take you to get through that? Was that like just like a couple of years? And then once you're through, like in past the menopause, then are your hormones then balanced or have they been balanced for like the past sort of 15 years or so? So you're not getting like the highs and the lows and the sugar cravings and all of those things, or is there still some sort of cycle?
Yes, so for your average person, they would balance. I didn't want to be average, apparently. So in addition to all of these problems, I have polycystic ovaries, endometriosis, and a couple of other bits just thrown in for good measure, which have resulted in big operations. I've had sort of 15 centimetre cysts removed, ovaries removed or ovary removed. I've had lots of problems along the way, which has meant that no, I've never been balanced in any way, shape or form. Just when I think I'm out of the woods, something else will come and get me, which is, again, the outdoors has just helped because once I've got over whatever that issue is, just being able to go outside has always been my saviour. I would love to say that I'm completely balanced, but in some ways, maybe it's good that I'm not because it gives me a real insight to what other people are going through. And in terms of sort of symptoms and side effects, I still get very bloated on my stomach, even things down to my skin. My skin still isn't brilliant. Coming into 40, I'd like to think that sort of acne might have disappeared, but I still struggle with things like that. So, and cravings, I really cannot stress that enough. I have the sweetest tooth. So unfortunately, no, I'm not massively balanced, but your average person should be, yes.
Thank you for sharing that. I suppose I'm just sort of wondering with sometimes I know for a lot of women, it can almost be like it's one thing after the other. You feel as though you're getting back on track and then boom, you get swiped from another side with something else happening. And it's almost like this up and down, up and down, up and down. In terms of remaining positive, but not toxic positivity, but sort of mentally, getting back up again each time. And obviously you do have to get back up. There is no other choice. But what do you do to sort of like, I suppose, manage your mental health when maybe it's not in the best place? Is there anything that you found? Obviously going outdoors is one of the big things for you, but like, and how do you do that? Is that solo? Is that walking with friends? Are there other things that you're doing?
So yeah, when it comes to the outdoors, I love spending time with my friends outdoors, and I love spending time with my walking group, some of which have become friends, which is amazing. But for me, and like healing, solo is definitely the way forward. I'm lucky, obviously, with the walking group, I have to do recce's for every walk, so that's a lot of solo time. I've got quite a few solo projects planned this year. I don't think it's a completely linear journey for me. It does go backward and forth. Whenever sort of, there's a bump in the road, I've gone through a lot of grief. I've lost a lot of people. That can trigger it and that sort of bumps me back. But going outdoors is always the thing that will help me. I have one very fond memory, which was my first solo holiday. And I was up in the Highlands where I spend an awful lot of time. And I remember walking around and I found a bench. I sat there and I had the most sort of clarity I'd ever had. And it truly felt like a moment of healing. So I always go back to the Highlands now. And it's now for me, if I'm not feeling 100%, I'm on a plane and I'm up to Inverness and I've got my backpack and it makes me very happy, definitely.
So I know that you've done a couple of ultras, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more, maybe about like the Isle of Wight ultra. Is that 100? Is that 100 kilometers or 100 miles?
It's 100 kilometres. So yes, I've done plenty of ultras, and actually now I work on the other side now. I like seeing people do them. I have hung up my sort of over 50 kilometres shoelaces, but I decided to go for the 100 just to really prove to everyone I could do it. And I knew it'd be a struggle. I had been told that it's easier to do 100 in one hit than it is to do 250s one day after the other, which I still stand by because I think your body will seize up. So at this point in time, my speed was pretty good. My health was arguably sort of the best it had been in a good while. I went in a great frame of mind. I was nervous. And I knew for me, it'd be sort of the sleep deprivation that would get me. I really enjoy sleeping. But I hit just before, I think it was 75 kilometers, and my body broke down. Everything that could just go wrong with my body went. Everyone says that your mind goes first, and I definitely considered giving up. It was a really tough course. There was an awful lot of mud. I've fallen over multiple times. I just couldn't consume any more energy drinks or oat bars. I wasn't quite fueling myself correctly, but my endometriosis really flared up just where my body was under such sort of pressure. And I got to the point where my leggings weren't even fitting. For sort of women to understand, I probably started the day at around a size 10. And in terms of what my stomach swelled to, it's probably like a 16. So, it was just very uncomfortable. And with that, my cramps started. I couldn't really walk. I felt sick. It was just awful. And then your mental sort of side of it goes and you start thinking, I'm not going to do this. So I bowed out actually at 75 kilometers and I cried. I cried like a baby, and it's a real first world problem. And I was so embarrassed for crying, but I felt like I had just, really just not achieved what I wanted to achieve. I felt like I'd let the team down and I felt miserable. I felt pathetic, to be honest. And I went back to where we were staying, feeling sorry for myself. And I just couldn't see that I'd actually achieved 75 kilometers, which with my doctors have said I'd never do anything like that. I also had really bad knees growing up. I've had multiple operations on my knees and they said I'd never be able to walk properly. So I woke up the next day and after a bit of a pep talk from one of the team members, I was told, 75 is still amazing. And I went back in the morning to get my medal, to get my t-shirt and to have my photo taken, my 75-kilometer board, because I realized that's such a privilege for your body to still be able to do 75. I didn't hit the 100, and we did watch some of the hundreds come in actually that morning. And it was so lovely to watch them come in, but they came in looking quite broken and I was broken at 75. So I made the right call for me physically. But I really had to shift my mindset that I was just chasing this number constantly, that magic 100, when actually I'd gone through enough at 75. And I had to sort of learn some grace for myself to bow out and to know when my time was. And there was nothing that I could have gained in those extra 25 kilometers other than just pain. And it was unnecessary. So it did take me overnight. And I didn't tell many people about it for a while because I was just so downhearted and sort of hard on myself. But now I look back and I think I did 75 and that's great. And I'm in awe of anyone who does the 100 with ease. I really am.
The fact is, you got in the arena, you signed up for the race, you committed to it, you did the training, you put in the hours, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about at all. And anybody who says anything, even like negative, it's just like they're not people you need in your life. But all I can think of is like, it's a hell of a distance. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal distance. And like you say, like everybody is different. And I mean, I'm just still the swelling in your stomach, going, so your leggings aren't fitting anymore. Like how uncomfortable and unpleasant that's going to be. And I suppose that mindset and that adjusting, and that's obviously something that you will be doing on a regular basis with your clients when you're going out walking. Like, what were the tips and tricks then? Like, how did you reframe it? Like, how did you change your perspective on this ultra?
So this is really interesting. I've got so much time and appreciation, and I'm so proud. And it's amazing watching some of the women in my group go from not being able to walk a few miles to we did Snowdon a few days ago, and watching people's journeys. I'm just in awe of them, and I don't quite have that sort of kindness for myself all the time. That's definitely something I'm learning. And I keep sort of photos of all the trails I've done and all of the silly things I've found myself agreeing to. It's a learning curve for me. And I'm still very much working on it. If anyone has any tips on how to do that, that would be wonderful. And I can see it from other people's. I can sort of dish out the advice, and I'm still learning to take the advice, to be honest.
But I think that's important. That the fact is we're always learning, and it also changes because I did a walk. So previously, I've done big old hikes like length of New Zealand and stuff, but it's been a long time since I've been hiking, and I went out for like a 5-day trip. It's called the Snowdonia Slate Trail, which was absolutely fantastic, really beautiful. But by day 3, I was like really struggling. And I was just like, Sarah, you've done months of this. But because I was like out of my habits and out of my routines and I hadn't got like my head in the game. So it was like, and obviously it also like I'm another 18 months older than I was previously and my routines weren't dialed in and I was a bit more, like there's sometimes like a lot more going on with life and I probably have become, more addicted to my phone. And struggling to be sort of quite mindful when I'm actually out walking. And it was almost like it takes me a while to get into like the nature space and to be like, okay, no, this is what we're doing. We're walking now, we're walking and we're chilling. And I suppose I just wonder, practicing mindfulness on the trail, what advice would you have, especially for individuals who, you know, have stressful lives, have stressful jobs, whether they've got to be on their phone all the time or, connected through technology or emails and stuff, but getting out into nature, trying to be mindful on the trail, what would you share?
Yes, so that's something that I'm really passionate about. When I first started doing trails, I remember doing the Saxon Shore Way, which was 160 odd miles. Did that over a course of a month, so it wasn't day by day, but every weekend we did marathons. So I remember taking sort of a little speaker with me and having a playlist, and I still wasn't quite zoned out. And I remember taking tons of photos for Instagram and trying to document it, and then always looking at things like train times afterwards. I was still not really being able to disconnect. And it was only when I started, to be honest, going up to the Highlands that I was able to disconnect. And now I can do that back in Kent quite happily. It does take me a couple of days on the trail to do it. And it does help when you've got easy to follow trails. If you're having to look at your phone for an app, if it's not an easy to navigate trail, you're instantly going to be checking your emails. And I'm guilty of it. My job means that if I don't check my emails, I might not pick up a job that I need. And it is sort of first come, first served in my industry. But the mental health benefits of just being able to switch off are so important. So I used to be focused, as I said, on numbers like what's the highest I can do? Can I do 50? Can I do 75? Can I do 100? Do I need to do marathons every day? But now my main focus is on slowing down. I've realized I can do those distances on a treadmill. So what is making me go out to nature? Why am I not in the gym? And now I've slowed my pace down a little bit. There are times when you have to be, you have to speed up for either safety or if you need to get to a camping time or if you just need to get home. But I look around now, I stop. I love mushrooms. People who know me know I get very excited when I see a mushroom. So I stop, I take pictures. I have my phone on airplane mode. There's obviously safety issues with that if you are, if you're solo hiking as a female, but we all know sort of times and places that we can do that. I really do sort of stop and smell the roses. I try my hardest when there's nature about to, just stop and watch it. I don't need to walk past. Saw a slow worm the other day and got very excited. I hadn't seen a slow worm in ages. And whereas most people would walk past, I wanted to stop. I wanted to look at him. And even if it's just pheasants running in a field, obviously when you're up in Scotland, it's great if you've got dolphins on the coastline. That's a lot easier to be mindful. But for me, just watching nature, and even when it's just the wind blowing through the trees, there's always something that it can give you that just stops and calms you down. But you do have to sort of be quite forceful with yourself to start with and take those sort of breaks. You don't need to power through. There's no sort of speed that you need to keep. You don't need to go to lunchtime and then to dinner time. Nothing's stopping you every half hour, just sitting for 5 minutes and watching the world go by.
It's like I've hugged trees before. I don't know, like sometimes I've been out and I feel like I've been really disconnected and I need to get like my feet in the dirt and or on the ground, not the dirt, but on the grass, on the ground and like
Mm.
hug a tree and then just stop. And then I always like it when I'd sort of like just turn around and look back to see how far I've come or where I've come from and just like look at the views or do a full like 360 turnaround. And it just gives me huge amounts of like joy and pleasure. I do for me, I do a lot of solo hiking and I honestly can't remember the last time that I probably did a group walk. I suppose because I feel very comfortable and very confident, just be like, yeah, let's just go. Like, and I'll head off by myself and do the walks. I've got like, there's no sort of issues, but I know like a lot of women wouldn't necessarily feel that comfortable or that confident about doing it, but they want to get outside and not just do the same old walks that they do from their house or their home, whether it's just a straight walk down the coast or, other routes that they know super well. They want to get more outdoors, more into the wilds, and actually, walking as part of a group is a phenomenal way to do that. But sometimes people can be like a little bit scared or a little bit anxious about that. And I suppose because you do so many group walks, it would be great just to get, when you have conversations with women about, encouraging them to come on a group walk, like what can they expect? Because sometimes I think it's like my similar thing would be like, I'm not a massive fan of running with other people because I'd be scared that I wouldn't be able to keep up with them, or they'd be judging me for being too slow, which they wouldn't be. I know they wouldn't be, but I can imagine that being one of the, like, well, what if I can't keep up with a group, or what if I've got to pee outdoors in nature, or, all of those sorts of things. And so I'd love for you just to talk a little bit more about, what your group experiences, your group walks look like.
Yeah, of course. Well, actually, one thing I believe when you said you touched on it with solo, there is so much power in being in a group. But one of the questions I always get asked is, how do you feel safe when you're out on your own all the time? Truthfully, I actually feel a lot safer in the middle of nowhere in a tent than I do down some of my local high streets. I actually, I don't know statistics on this, but I'm convinced that being on your own in nature is definitely a lot safer. But I understand exactly why most people would want to have sort of community around them. And, firstly, the friendships that come out of groups is just incredible. Most people do turn up quite anxious if they've never met anyone from the group before, or if they have never gone to any type of group event before. A lot of people have gone to, like, let's say, a gym class, but quite often you don't have to talk to anyone there, do you? You just sort of line up and follow the instructor. There is a power in walking, though, where you are not facing each other, where you are side by side. Conversation will naturally flow a lot easier. I try to buddy people up as much as possible, make sure that, especially if someone's new, that they are walking next to someone. Especially if I've got sort of a chatterbox, I'll put them next to there. What you find, though, over a course of a walk is that people will naturally find their tribe. They go between, they have conversations. There is definitely a lack of confidence with women, particularly, let's say, 45 and plus women, just being outdoors, knowing how to be outdoors, firstly safely, but even things like peeing outdoors. It's all we talk about as a group. And it's been such a barrier for people. I am so used to it now, to the point that if I am in my local high street, I'm looking for a tree. But I know there's so many members that have, like, confided in me, sort of saying they want to come out for the longer walks, but they can't drink enough water because they need to go to the toilet. And now I spend my days telling people how to do that, recommending, like, toilet systems to people. But when the confidence starts to build and when they meet people that they can connect with, it's brilliant. I had people that didn't know each other months ago and spent Christmas Day together. So the bonds that you can form can be really life changing, but it is just getting the confidence up. And I think that is just a case of being outside with people that do feel confident, like any sort of, myself or any sort of group leader would. I love sharing my experiences, everything I have learnt, be it kit, where to go, route planning, everything has been through my own failures and, my own training. So I'm a big believer in sharing it. Why make people make the same mistakes that you did? Let people learn.
So it is MJ Outdoor Adventures. How did you meet Mike? Do you have a cute meet story?
We don't, to be honest. We met online. We're married now, but no, we met online, moved in together about, I think it was 2 weeks before COVID hit. So that was make or break. That worked out quite well. And then we sold our individual properties and moved into a house that was not rural at all, but slightly more rural. So we wanted to be around what I refer to as the green. I needed there to be green on the map. And luckily moved into a place that's got woodlands out the back, so constant dog walking options. So Mike will be the back walker on any of our mixed groups, but obviously does not make an appearance on any women's groups, which are the vast majority. And we don't get to walk together that often nowadays, actually. So it's more just backpacking, and I'm doing more and more solo things. So when we get to come together and have a holiday, that's really nice.
Are you training for anything at the moment?
I'm taking a friend who has not backpacked at all to Glenafric to do the trail, the Kintail around there. I've done sections of it, but it's only a short one. It's 3 or 4 days we'll do it in. I'm then taking myself up again to the Highlands. There's a theme here to do the Moray Coastal Trail. That's going to be solo. Then the W Trail in Patagonia, heading off to Morocco to do some mountains there. Hoping to take the group to do Scarfell Pike just because we're trying to hit the three peaks, and also to do some bits, maybe some local trails. Currently doing the Greensand Way, which is a Surrey through to Kent trail. And that should cover me, I'm hoping, for a couple of months. Then I'll get itchy feet and then I'll need to start making plans for something else.
The W Trail in Patagonia will be incredible.
I cannot wait. And I can't claim that that was my idea, to be honest. That's actually a friend of mine who lives in America. She went down an Instagram hole with it, sent me some pictures, and then I went down the hole as well. So I'm going to go out there and meet her and trek that, which should be scenery like I've probably never seen before. I'm really looking forward to that.
Have you been to South America before?
No, not at all. It's so foreign to me. I've done a decent amount of research and I will definitely do more beforehand. And I need to do some, watch some YouTubes and see what I can gain from that. But I like to go in with a decent amount of knowledge, but not so much that I'm sort of going, oh, I recognize that rock, I recognize that tree. That's where I'm going to camp for the night. I like there to be a certain amount, up to chance and to have experiences that wouldn't happen if I was completely on an itinerary. So I'll do a little bit more research, but I want to leave it up to fate a little and see what happens. As long as I'm safe, obviously, that's the important thing, and well fed.
I think there's a balance to that because I like being planned, prepared, organized, but equally I don't want to see everything already. Like I still wanted to experience it, for the first time and just to see what does happen. That sounds amazing. I love all these adventures and trips that you've got planned. You're also you are an ambassador for the Ordnance Survey. Is that right?
Yes. So they're called Ordnance Survey Champions, which is, for me, ideal company to be able to work with, to be honest with you. And I love map reading and I'm a bit geeky. I really love a paper map. I just think they're visually very pretty and I love learning from them. So being able to sort of work alongside them has been great. And we also got our North Downs Way ambassadors as well. Did the North Downs Way last year, which is a brilliant route for anyone who isn't even in the southeast. Cannot recommend it enough. It's quite accessible as well. You can do a lot of sections from train station to train station. Surrey through to Kent, so you've got a real sort of change of landscape. Just wouldn't recommend doing the whole thing in February like I did. That was maybe not one of my best decisions. That was quite muddy and wet as well.
Why did you pick February?
I don't know. February is such a dead month, isn't it? I see the start of the sort of outdoors year for me as the Outdoors Expo in March, and then that gets me excited for the rest of the year. It gives me loads of ideas. But then sometimes December, January, February can be quite hard work being outdoorsy. I want to say I'm a fair weather walker and I'd love to be, but the truth is I go out in all weathers. So I just wanted something just to give me a focus, which is why I'll be going to Patagonia in February next year. But yeah, I saw it online. I've seen sections. We're very, very close by. Some of it's on our doorstep, and I thought, let's just do the whole thing. What's the harm in it? And apart from going through an awful lot of reproofing for coats and trousers, it was a great experience that I would just recommend doing some of it at the very least when it's dry, because the views are just spectacular and I wasn't able to appreciate them. But off the back of that, we became ambassadors for the North Downs Way. So now I get to share it with everyone at least.
And were you camping out there or were you basically going home at the end of every day?
Yeah, I can't lie. On this occasion, we went home. Quite often I'll fast pack. If it's really miserable weather, I'm happy to go, B&Bs, even like, hotels to hotels. I don't mind. I don't think that's cheating. People do seem to have this idea that you have to be absolutely wild camping for everything. And obviously it's in Kent, you can't technically wild camp. But at that time of year, it would have just been miserable to have gone to campsites, even if they were open. So I just didn't have sort of the logistics and the time to put together to sort the hotels out. So I went back home every night, which obviously made it quite a big undertaking. You're driving back, you're trying to car share and car shuttle, and it was it was good fun. I do look back on it with fond memories, but some of the pictures I do look like a drowned rat, I can't lie.
It's your adventure, it's your challenge. Like if you wild camp, stay in hotels, fast pack, a hike with the kitchen sink, it's doing what works for you. So what are the stats on the North Downs Way then? What's the distance? How many days? What are some of the highlights? Why should people walk that trail?
So it's around 150, I want to say off the top of my head, 153 miles. It's one of the national trails. It's got a decent amount of amenities around it, to be honest with you, and they're constantly adding to it. Particularly in the Surrey section, you go through some gorgeous vineyards. You've got a few trig points as well, and I absolutely love trig points, and there's not a ton of them down here, so that's quite handy. You finish in Dover, which so you can easily just nip along to the White Cliffs. The viewpoints on the North Downs, on the Chalk Line Ridge, is just spectacular, to be honest with you. Now, obviously, I didn't see them fully in February, but I've done sections before and I've since gone back and seen them. We're really lucky. The problem is I do find in the outdoors world, and rightly so, everyone talks about the peaks, the lakes, the highlands, Wales. And Kent sometimes gets forgotten a little bit because it hasn't got anything quite as spectacular. But truly, there's an awful lot of beautiful, beautiful routes down here, which is sort of what I want to try and encourage people to see. And the North Downs Way is definitely one that really does shine through.
What would your advice and tips be with regards to women who are thinking, well, walking or hiking outdoors, that isn't for me. Like I don't fit that stereotypical mold.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a good point, to be honest with you. So firstly, obviously, being a woman in the outdoors industry, I'm oftentimes, sometimes the only woman that has been picked for a job, but there is a real diversity issue. You only have to go down, an Instagram hole to see that the people that are getting, free bits and bobs sent to them or partnering with companies, they look a certain way and they've worked hard for those opportunities, definitely. But there is a whole bunch of people that are not able to get those opportunities. And that can be really simple, be if people have grown up in, let's say, a city kind of environment. I do DV and I've had kids ask what a sheep was before, which, I'll be honest, I laughed. But the truth is that if you have been brought up, let's say, inner London, you've never gone out and seen the green, you don't really know what a sheep is. And that to me is second nature. But there is a whole load of reasons, and that could be sort of your family background, it could be money, it could be your size, your shape, anything can be a barrier. And when you are looking at the outdoors and when you do see people outdoors and they all look pretty similar, it can be quite intimidating. I've worked with some local community groups for African, Caribbean, Southeast Asian groups to try and promote and to get people outdoors. And it is a barrier. What has often happened is if people have been brought up in sort of city environments, their parents might really not have known how to access the countryside. So they are brought up similar to how their parents were. And then, it just goes down the generations. With that, if you are brought up in a household without as much income, I always say that walking's free and hiking's expensive. And of course, there are cheaper options, but as we know with a lot of things, quite often times you do have to upgrade your bits. If you're going to be outside for longer or outside in sort of the harsher weather, if you want to sort of go through the seasons, and they can be barriers. If you can't drive, you don't have a car, trying to get to the countryside can be a pain. I must admit, I try and do car shares for people just to try and sort of, open it up. But it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. And if you are not able to see yourself in an environment, it will put you off of going to that environment. Or worse still, in a way, you'll go, but you won't feel comfortable asking questions. You won't get advice. And that could put you, particularly if you're looking at doing things in the outdoors, in quite a dangerous situation.
No, thanks for sharing that, Jen, because you know what, it is actually really important because the outdoors is for everybody, but there are a huge amount of barriers out there, and it's good to talk about those barriers and how they can be overcome. Jen, how can people connect with you and sign up for your walks? Where should they go?
So we are on Instagram, MJ Outdoor Adventures, and then mjoutdooradventures.co.uk. In terms of, as I mentioned, accessibility, whenever we're able to work with the council and provide things completely for free, we always do. And there's a few options coming up in the coming months that will make being in the outdoors a little bit more affordable for people as well.
That's absolutely awesome. Jenn, thank you so much for coming on the Tough Girl podcast to share more of your story. And I'd love for you to have share your final words of advice, words of wisdom for other women out there who want to get outside more, who want to explore nature, who want to go walking. Apart from just do it, what advice would you like to share?
For me, it's find your tribe. Once I found my tribe and I found more people like me, that was the winning combination. And that might take a while. You might go to one group, it's not for you. You might have to look around a bit, but do your research. Also, footwear. Oh, if I talk about anything, just get a good pair of boots. It makes all the difference. As someone who has had so many blisters, so a good pair of boots and find your tribe. And you can't really go wrong once you've got that.
Fantastic. Yeah, find your tribe and a good pair of boots. Absolutely. Jenn, thank you so much for all the work that you are doing to encourage more women to get outside, to go on their own walks, and for being an Ordnance Survey champion. It's absolutely awesome. And best of luck with all your future hikes and adventures. They sound amazing. I can't wait to follow along.
Thank you so much.
Hey, tribe. I really hope you enjoyed that episode with Jenn Phillips. I think talking about perimenopause and menopause is so important. And honestly, when I reflect back about the Tough Girl podcast, I honestly think it's only been the past couple of years that even the conversation around perimenopause and menopause has become more open. There's definitely more discussions. There's more on social media. Maybe it's just because like millennial women like myself are now entering their 40s and are starting to experience these symptoms. And maybe just women are just sick and tired of going through things like this in silence and are actually sharing and talking about it and asking for help and getting support from doctors, from workplaces, from friends, from family, etc., so that people don't have to go through this alone. It's not some like big hidden secret. So I really do appreciate when people come on the podcast and share more about their experiences with menopause. And if you go to toughgirlchallenges.com on the website and you type in the word menopause, I don't have like one specific episode linked into menopause, but it's definitely a conversation that comes up, especially with women, the older women that I interview. So Jo Mosley, a joy encourager and midlife adventurer. She shares more about what it was like turning 50 for her and her experiences of perimenopause and menopause. We've spoken with Ali Mahoney-Johnson, turning 50 with purpose, adventure, motherhood. Renee McGregor, world-renowned expert in athlete health and performance. She also shares her personal journey with perimenopause. Shavona Daniels, 60 plus. She's very pro-age, anti-ageism campaigner. She talks about life in her mid-50s where feeling burnt out after dealing with symptoms of the menopause. And, something that I've read as well is that menopause is hitting women like slightly earlier these days. So, and that aging happens in two spurts at 44, and I think the next one is 60. Don't know how accurate that is, but for me, because I'm now how old am I? 42, 43? Am I 43? I'm 43. And suffering with brain fog, going to be 44 this September. And so what I have been trying to do is basically for me, I am great, I'd say, in most areas. The area which I am not great in is nutrition. That is my downfall, and that is something I struggle with. And that's and I think that leads to me being anemic because due to like my gut health, it's something that I'm actually going to be working on and spending a lot of time working on. But I do believe for me, I just want to be as fit and strong as possible as I get older. I want to lift heavy weights. I want to prioritize protein. I want to prioritize strong bones and building up muscle mass. That is just such a big priority for me. So I do go to the gym on a regular basis. I am very, very consistent with that when I am at home. And I like to think that would help. Being fitter would help me with like perimenopause and menopause. I'm also very fortunate. I work at a place called AIM Health, which is amazing. And they have something called like an AirPod, which is a hyperbaric an oxygen chamber. They have red light as well, so I'm doing that on a consistent basis. So I think all of that is helping me manage probably my symptoms. But the other one is, getting outside in nature, going walking. If you can, if it is available to you, try and get outside, try and get your daily steps in, meet friends, go for a walk, get outside, be active. It's all going to help with the mental health side of things. But like I say, look, I am by no means an expert, but there are resources available out there. So, I mean, I think there's about 24 episodes on the podcast that you can listen to of women who are still doing adventures, still going on challenges, even though they're going through perimenopause and menopause, and women not after menopause, you know what I mean, older women who are still prioritizing adventure, spending time outdoors, prioritizing themselves. So please do make sure that you make yourself a priority. It is okay to put yourself first, especially when it comes to your health, your physical well-being, your mental well-being, and your emotional well-being. You can, this is the voice telling you it is okay for you to prioritize yourself. You are number one. You get one body. Look after that body, prioritize it, prioritize your health, your wellness. Oh, I've just said that about 3 times. I think you're getting the message. A massive, massive thank you to Jenn for coming on the Tough Girl podcast. You know, please do reach out to her. She's on social media. Everything that we have talked about today will be available in the show notes at toughgirlchallenges.com. New episodes go live every Tuesday at 7 a.m. UK time, with bonus episodes going live on Thursday. If you'd like to support the work that I do, then please visit Patreon, patreon.com/toughgirlpodcast, and you can sign up as a monthly or annual patron. If it's motivated, if the Tough Girl podcast has motivated you, it's inspired you, it's helped change your life in some way, I'd love you to tell one friend about the Tough Girl podcast. Share it on social media. It really does make a massive difference in getting these incredible women's stories out there. We're now over like 810. 800, yeah, roughly. Well, we'll go with 810. Roughly 810 episodes available for you to listen to. So that is a lot of content, a lot of inspiration waiting to be discovered. Thank you so much for listening. All that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all. Give it 110%. Get after it. Go for it. Believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.